The title for now is of my PhD research is Understanding the Urban Structure of Informal Settlements, combining techniques of 3D scan and shape grammar. And my research involves three different themes that are slums, shape grammar, and 3D scan. And of course, the intersection between them. And the research occur in the intersection of all of them. My case study is a slum, Brazilian slum, located in Rio. It's called Favela Santa Marta. Okay. This slum is located in the south of Rio de Janeiro, near the Christ Redeemer, and near some well-known neighborhoods like Copacabana, Botafogo. And it's indeed well-known by media because there were two video clips that were filmed there, one from Michael Jackson, another one from Beyonce, yeah, and two movies, Fast Five, and a Brazilian one that is Elite Squid. So it's a good example of slums because it represents what people think about slum, because it is what media shows to the world of what is a slum. Indeed, it has less violence because there's a program in Brazil that tries to pacify. Yes. Thank you. Pacify some parts of the city, and this slum is an example of a good results. Yeah, good results. We also see the pacification. So it's important also have the possibility to enter there, to take pictures, to measure, to walk. So this is important. Okay. So this is an image from Google Earth of the slum. They indeed provide us a kind of 3D model. Okay. And this is an image of Santa Marta with Christ Redeemer behind. And this is an example of a pathway. There some most of pathways are really small. Cars doesn't enter there. You can only cross by walking. So my research question is how to develop urban planning tools that have as base positive features of a slum. And the hypothesis is that computing techniques like 3D scan and shape grammar can provide a detailed understanding of the urban structure of a slum, helping to develop urban planning tools. Okay. And the research is divided into different parts. Thank you. First of all, the state of art, and the second one, understanding of form. And the state of the art will be done in the intersection between the three themes, like between 3D scan and slums. We are looking for references that use 3D scan in places that are similar to slums, but that are inaccessible, high density, and Then the intersection between shape grammar and slums focused on urban grammars and having special attention to high density and shape complex places. And finally, the intersection between 3D scan and shape grammar when we are looking for references that combines techniques of 3D scan and shape grammar. And the understanding of form, we are trying to understand how is the role that slums plays in cities. Um, of course, talking about social problems, urban problems, and then we are using technique of 3D scan to collecting data and try to understand how the slum occupied a city space by a shape grammar, developing a shape grammar. So I am beginning the research. I'm starting the research because this is my first year, so I did disciplines, and this is our first approach. And, uh, so we did model, a digital model of the slum, but based on what are available at Google Earth. So it's a 3D model for a 3D of a 3D model. Okay, it was used to try to understand what is the best way to collect data, what are the problems that we can find, and try to prepare to go there. And we are thinking to go in May and collect data in real environment. So I got the 3D model of Google Earth and started to make pictures and doing rounding the model. Okay. Then I used Visual SFM, that is a software, to create a point cloud doing triangulation between images and finding congruence between them. So all these colorful points are pictures, are the images that were done. Then Visual SFM, also another software that is CMVS, does a kind of dense model, but is indeed a point cloud model. And then in another software that is MeshLab, we can make a surface, color the surface, and put scale, rotate, and everything. So it was important to understand the basic structure of the environment and identify adequate ways to collect the images directly from the reality that we are going to do in May. And the data gathering process in real environment will be very demanding because of the complexity of the form. There are many pet views that are not that are covered, so only get data by drone isn't enough. We have to find another way to get data, to collect the data. And this is all.
Yes. After this model, you can also add some plant views and other photography.
Yeah, but
also get some analysis of that.
Yeah, but it's not finished.
Point already combined this model with the other data to do the analysis or not yet?
Not yet, because the cartography are not it's not finished. So that's why I didn't present it here.
Also, the first approach on the model of the sun that allows you somehow to simulate the way to capture the aerial data, but also looking at the images that the app already has, know that we have to go to field because there are lots of narrow spaces that will not be registered or captured by air imagery. So we have to do also a ground-based approach. We don't know yet exactly if only with pictures, with images, or if some kind of active system. We have to find a way. We think that from that data gathering, modeling, we can perceive better the shape of the sun, and after that we can better create hypotheses on how forms articulate and but compose shape grammar that can explain a little bit the genesis of those kind of let's say, informal settlements.
Yeah.
And that's the way that the research is getting now. We are foreseeing that until always more or less we are able to go there and to do now a survey on a real scenario. Let's see what this will give. One thing is already taken for, let's say, an innovative approach, because as far as we know, there are not this kind of record of these spaces. It's not a thing that is done or is commonly done. And we think that with this approach, we can give another perspective of a problem that is already has been seen from other points of view. And we think that with this more accurate spatial description, new knowledge can arise on the study of this kind of spaces. That's it. She's starting. She did a semester. She's going on to the second semester, and all your comments would be welcome.
Okay, I actually have a lot of comments. Probably David also has some comments in terms of methodology. Most of my comments are related with methodology. Okay? First, you have one focus theme, which are slams. Okay, the other two things are, let's say, techniques. Okay, these techniques involve tools and methods to approach a particular problem. But the topic is collecting information from a slam, and I would say this is one of the approaches that is achievable by the use of 3D scanning. I believe this can be very useful in terms of collecting information about urban structures that evolve very fast. So it's also a fast way of collecting that information. And in that sense, it is a new approach. It is useful because it allows you to really reach the information in a fast enough way to be useful. Because otherwise, if you take a long time and you're just taking the information all by hand or with traditional methods, when you get all the model, the place has already changed. So it's a useless model. And in this way, I believe it can be quite useful. So I would separate this part of your research as a kind of first isolated thing, which is interesting by itself. Okay, this is one thing. The other thing is to try to understand the evolution, how this particular understanding it by, finding out which are the rules. How does a particular increment of the area, how is it constrained by the other previous increments and so on. So the logic of growth, basically. Shape grammars can provide you some information on that. It's always a process where you need to collect information from different periods. So it will not be enough to have the data that you collect using the 3D scanning. You need more, okay? Because otherwise, of course, there are things that you can look at and interpret, like the construction always tells you a lot about how it was raised. Many times you have a ground floor and something that is built on top of this ground floor later on, and then another floor that is added later on. And it's usually easy to see because the construction is very sometimes unfinished, so it clearly shows all the phases, even by the age of the materials. Okay, it's easy to have that information. Still, it's a lot of groundwork, and to really get to a shape grammar that can be useful in that kind of information, I would advise to try to collect information from the past that allows you to understand more or less how the thing grows. But then there is another aspect, and in the end, if you get let's say a shape grammar which clearly is able to explain the evolution of this type of settlement, you can also, let's say, make simulations on how it might evolve, or on how certain places can grow if they're started to get occupied by this kind of settlements. But then, in the end, you also need to think about what will be the use of this, okay? And you're also talking about planning tools, and that final objective of the research is still a little bit unclear, okay? So you already have two topics which are interesting. One contributes to the other. It doesn't complete the information. It's not enough in itself. The first goal that you can achieve with the shape grammar is basically a kind of knowledge about slams, and an added knowledge about slams, about its generation, the rules underneath the generation. But these are basically formal rules, okay? It doesn't tell you that much about the social aspects of that generation, because many of the reasons why things grow and change in these places are essentially moved by social issues. And it would be interesting if you could add to the grammar information on this, which means it will not be a shape grammar, it might be a description grammar combined with the shape grammar. Okay, but it's not exactly the same thing, but it's probably more interesting. But still, the jump from something which just wants to explain what is there to something which wants to plan, order, help developing a particular area, it needs a little bit, I would say, a lot more input in terms of theory. Okay, so you need to, if you want to from this point, develop a planning tool, you need to also enter with a lot of knowledge on planning for bottom-up settlements, social research. You need to focus a lot on social dynamics in these places, correlate those social dynamics with the urban dynamics. And so there's a lot of stuff that you need to add to really get into a planning tool. Otherwise, it will be simply an analysis tool, a method that will bring more information on how slums evolve. It's already quite good, okay?
Yeah.
But the only thing you need to understand is to get that step further. It's really ambitious, first of all, and second, it needs a lot more. That's not enough. Okay.
David, do you know? The things I had to say, you already told.
I said it.
Okay.
Maybe I have a couple of ideas, and I think these kind of structures they exist, and they have to be approached in some way by the municipalities. So one of the things I've seen they are doing is trying to upgrade them in some way, or some of them, in terms of infrastructure or something. So this can, I don't know if they have gathered, because at some point they have to decide who are the owners of what, for instance. And these are so complex. I think just the basic extraction of 3D for property identifications, to know what is there with the owner, etc., can be a very useful thing for the municipality to have a story in 3D, because in 2D doesn't work.
Yes.
There is things acting in 3D. And it can be also very good because these are very problematic places in terms of geography, and they have strong problems in terms of rains, and the 3D model in that also is crucial to check for safety in terms of analysis that is done normally in the GIS or in some tool that can use the terrain model. And from photography, you cannot get the terrain from that because you don't see it. But the usual ways of extracting terrain, in this case, are impossible. When you enter there and you have some way of identifying what is artificial and what is the relief is difficult. So in that two things, I see usefulness in this, and maybe connecting this with that kind of use. What is the future use in terms of analysis of the security of the place, in terms of property, and give cadastre to the municipality to work on, to improve, and to upgrade the place.
Just a final remark. Whenever still puts the final objective of developing the common tools.
Yeah.
I think that this will be more analysis tool and explaining tool. Describing them can explain still what is the phenomenon, but I don't think that this will evolve to a planning tool, because that would be possible if you want.
Yeah.
Because it's at the beginning you want to do everything from one point to the other, but I don't think that the time lapse of the speed of the PhD will be enough to
Develop
that's,
this. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I think that it will stay at where it was ever gone. So this is something that we already talked about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a question regarding the property issue. What is the general understanding? I mean, if you have something which is a body, I guess in this place the problem is that somebody can put something on top of that body. So you build your own house, and then they kind of take the roof. How would it be, for example, if something like that happens in Portugal? What would be the general understanding of this? Is this my roof, or it chooses to be my roof and becomes somebody else's terrace?
As far as I know, the economic dynamics in Brazil works like this. You build up your house single floor,
Yeah.
and then you sell the space, the roof for someone to build on top. And when you do the slab for your roof, you do it a little bit larger, so it has a small cantilever towards the street, because you have more area on top. It's purely economic. Making money out of it.
While in Portugal, that surface would be yours. In theory.
In theory,
I don't know. That's why I
we also have horizontal property, and sell.
I know, but if, for example, if you have a condominium, then you just slice it in horizontal property.
Yeah, but
in a situation like that, there's no slicing.
Because there's no property in slums.
It's not legal.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I think that some of these issues are also present in our cities, also present in Portugal. When you were saying that the 3D understanding of space is useful, is useful for the municipality, I believe they can be useful in Lisbon too, in some cases. In some cases, maybe not as much as there, but
Our informal settlements, it's not good to call them slums. It's not nice. Nowadays, they are trying not to call it like that. And usually, it's not so
complicated. So steep.
The ones are more or less stable. The ones that we have are not growing fast. And what we had similar to that disappeared. Yeah, was demolished. Now they are illegal places, but they are more bricks. Things look like source lines. So there was when you enter in Lisbon, coming from the highway, where were the former tolls, yeah, where the former tolls were in Rio Velho. That area was completely
Filled up with slabs.
but since the ground is more horizontal, this kind of
Side by side.
flat, and that was all demolished.
And most of the slams that we had were demolished and replaced by social housing.
So nowadays we have illegal places, but normally they have regular houses.
Yeah.
Just a bit more.
We have a lot of neighborhoods that have illegal genesis, but they were somehow shaped by some regular structure. Actually, the largest ones have a regular structure, which is quite
selling property illegally, and making parcels.
So the structure is there. It just needs to be recognized as a legal structure. Yeah. Well, that is still a little bit on the slums.
But if I understand well, this is still going on. So maybe in São Paulo, or in Rio de Janeiro. In São Paulo, we have also
Slums, yeah. In São Paulo, in Belo Horizonte, Fortaleza, all the big
All the big
cities
cities
have.
some are very nice because they are using the highway structure, so they build it in the highway.
So they already have a roof.
Yes, they already have. But there is even more 3D because they build it alongside the pilots of the structure. So it's Okay, cool. So this is a tool for the day-to-day in Brazil.
Yeah.
For Portugal, it's not quite like this now.
No, but it's very useful for Brazil. Okay, shall we go to the next one? Who's presenting? Francisco or Stefano? Okay.
Obrigado. Lettura. Why it's so? Because it does not. It's like è un PDF, sì. E come si fa a fare? Wait, wait, out. Yeah, but I can't get out from here. Wait, how can I get out from this visualization? Control End. Control L. Okay. This is better. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I will soon talk about. Just check if it's okay. About a workshop that we are organizing in the next months in Torino. It's the name of the workshop is Living Urbanism, and it's focused. It's it's going to be in the date between April and May. And this workshop, it's the team that is collaborated to realize this workshop. It's a team that comes from here the faculty with Professor Berau, me and Francesco, and to George Hill that is we consider as external from University of Delft, and two members from Torino. One is Marta Colombo, and the other one is Eugenio Giacchino. For this workshop, we have some partners, but the faculty is one of them. We have also Confindustria Piemonte, that is the association of the businesses in Piemonte, and a municipality. In this case, is the one of Bottigliera Alta. We have also a sponsor. This is la Fondazione dell'Ordine degli Architetti, the Architect Chamber Foundation of Torino. We start from a question, actually two requests that we came from two figures. One it was a public one, the Comune of Bottigliera, and Bottigliera was asking us which is to help understand them which the municipality of Bottigliera was suitable for. And the other one was another question coming from not a public figure, but a private one as association from Confindustria that was asking us where the business of the associate were able to find a best place for them. We thought that there's some issue is the Italian urban planning that actually connect both of the two questions. What we have here in Italy, we have a total disjunction between the growth strategies that coming from European Union and Italian direction that are totally disconnected with the urban planning. And this doesn't help at all private businesses and public intention. Also, there's no timing, absolute timing between the bureaucracy and the investments that are coming from the businesses, the person who want to invest in the area. What we thought that maybe using the methodology that I will show you, we can help them both to enhance growth and development using the urban planning. The methodology applied to it is going to be explained during the workshop. It's a scenario-based approach. Is a certain evaluation of strategies, national, and they're coming from European Union and also national studies. according to each of these mm, evaluation, we define a scenario, and we actually we define plenty of them according to all these indication that coming from European Union in Italy. For each scenario, we create a set of indicators to measure the feasibility of the scenario, and we run an analysis according to the indicator we selected. For each scenario, we were looking for a specific, really deep analysis of the literature review about each one, and we were helped by Eugenio Giacchino, that was one of the most focused about this work, because he was already involved by his work in this kind of subject, and running analysis about each scenarios. We create for each scenario a map of the suitability, which place is best for this scenario. Yeah, this is also a next step. After creating this map, we evaluate the possibility of the limits of the urban policies that are in each municipality, in a way that, okay, this is place is really good for grow in that direction, but we have a lot of urban limitation, and we cannot go there. Also, we also create a limit about the possibility to have investment in that area. This is the double check of each scenario that happened later on. We analyzed this work in a two different scale, a regional one and a municipal one, so on the high scale and local scale. The case study was the entire region of Piemonte in all the 9 provinces, and all the 1,206 municipalities. For all of them, we according to the studies we have done about the national and European guidelines on growth, we prepare a list of scenarios, and for all of them we create this list of indicators we're gonna measure on the regional scale. In this presentation, I'm gonna focus on the one we focus a little bit more, because it was the most complex one, and this is exactly the first one, about how to place a startup in the region of Piemonte. We run our analysis of this. One of the most of the data we used, they were coming from the information of demographic coming from the ISTAT, the National Statistic institution, yeah, by the institution. Road network, railways and highway tracks, the geometry and the buildings and the height. We don't have that much other information about the business, the buildings, the position of universities, research centers, startups, and position of cinemas, places where theaters and museums, entrance of highways, that was train station, bus stops, and bus lines. Also, we call it immaterial network, the network between businesses that maybe are not grouping in big networks of relationships, industrial clusters and real estate values, soil composition, national parks, and protected areas. And start talking about the scenario 1, the startup scenarios. And what we done in first was to looking for literature about where place a startup. What we have found that there are some information, but not enough there was not enough for us to be sure about where the best place how to find the best place for this, to place a startup. What we have done in this case was to create our own set of indicators, and we first placed where the startups they are now in Regione Piemonte, using actually we have a nice data set update, pretty much really update, and we place them, and we create a set of indicators that we reevaluate afterwards. They were divided in 5 categories. One we divided by human capital, innovation, cultural attractiveness, spatial configuration, and urban quality. For each of one, we have like I don't know if I can use the mouse. Yeah, you can see. We for each one we define two indicators. One related to the distance. I show you later. One of walking distance and the other one car distance. I show you what means that one. We create this list looking about the literature we found. Also, with we thought could be interested for us to evaluate at regional scale. What we have done is to create a system, a buffer system, to measure this information. In this schematized schema, I will try to explain how does it work. We create two buffers. The first one, this is supposed to be the municipality, a buffer of 2.5 kilometers that for us was, we thought could be the 30 minutes walking distance, and a buffer of 30 kilometers that's supposed to be the 30 minutes driving distance. It's an approximation, but it's because we know that road doesn't, 30 kilometers of road for sure sometimes is not of the 30 minutes. But for this kind of, for the purpose of the workshop, was the for us, we thought was the best approximation. What we've done later on, we count items that were inside this buffer, and we run some for the case of values. In the case of values, we average them inside these buffers. In the case of the spatial analysis, we average the values inside this, the two of them. What we, for each municipality, centering the buffer inside where was placed the town hall, we generate all of 2006 buffers, one of 2.5, the other one for 30 kilometers. And we run the analysis. We add like, for all of the indicators we list, a data set containing all of them. The step we did after was to first make a benchmark and define a scoring system, and afterward create a correlation between the presence of indicators and the actual presence of startups linked to the variable indicators. We use the quartile to run the benchmark, and I show you when we have like less than one quartile, we have a score 1, between one quartile and the median, score 2, and median and the third quartile, score 3, and greater than the third quartile, we have the score 4. This means that we have all the indicators listed vertically. If a municipality has a value that for the first indicator, human capital 1, C means car, and W was walking. This is the 30 kilometers. This one is, the second one is the walking. If you have a value that stay in between 5 and 0.599 and 0.626, the score is 1. If it's bigger but it's still in this gap, it's score 2, score 3, and score 4. Okay, we run the rescoring for all indicators for each municipality. And we sum up all of them for each municipality, having like a simple sum of all indicators for each municipality. We call it full index. There's no weight, there's no, just the sum of all of them. What we have done later is to include the correlation. The correlation for us was, I was explaining before, it's evaluating the actual presence of startups and the relation that it has with the presence of this indicator, each one. And what we have done, we realized that there's some indicators that totally there's no correlation with the presence of startups, and we exclude them. And we shrink the list of the indicators we defined before. After that, we create another set of scoring, weighting the score with the correlation. For each indicators, we multiply with the real correlation that he has, and we create values that we call weighted adjusted interval of weighted index. And what we have done is creating a map with this, in this case, the full index is just summing up without no weight. And actually, this means that these maps show up where the places that, according to the indicators and without taking into account the correlation, are the best places to create a startup. And the other one is exactly the same, including the weighting of each indicator. What we have done later is to include the typological analysis and indicators coming from them. And in this case, is just run on in the province of Torino. And we run the same system with new indicators. And we have like the full index and the adjusted index. We now start talking about again the workshop. After run this kind of analysis for each scenario, the workshop we gonna create indexes for all of them, suitability index for all of them. And again, we're gonna talk with the as the stakeholder or the municipality, talk about which strategy is better in the case of a municipality to go in the case of one municipality, if this municipality, according to any of this list, any of the scenario in this list, is good for maybe develop in startups or in competitive businesses, or and which indicator has to trigger to change to go in that direction. In the case of stakeholders, the map allowed the association of Confindustria to point in which place is best for a specific business go in a municipality that can actually help that business to work better. During the workshop, we're gonna have a simulation that's is only for the case of the stakeholders. We're gonna have a live simulation, designing kind of a meet design with a parametric tool that allow us to change the indicator, to create a plan and have a feedback about the changing of indicators. The workshop is still in planning about the last details, but it's supposed to be soon. Thank you. What a question. 2 pages.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very practical. To
which is the walking distance that we thought could be the 30 minutes walking.
Based on some literature or just?
No, this is as an approximation as the 30 kilometers.
Well, in the things that I read, normally it's more around 1 kilometer.
Okay.
3 kilometers hour person. And maybe it's a better average.
Yeah.
Maybe David can help us because he's always working with that. But in space syntax, at least, the number is more for that time is 1 kilometer. That's the buffer that we use for local impact.
Mm-hmm.
And that is around.
That means that the radius is 1, so the diameter is 2.
Yes, the distance one from the starting point. So normally it's like
This guy's yeah.
Exactly, because if you have a very intricate.
Also, if it's you have to clear.
for service access, normally the time is around 15 minutes. 30 minutes is stretching a bit.
Mm.
So normally for comfort it's 15 minutes and 500 meters. 1 kilometer is a possible radius for someone to decide to take a walk. But 2.5, no. I don't remember reading that anywhere. So many kilometers.
Okay.
In a way that value was just, well, just not random, but just pick one.
That maybe
It makes more sense, yeah. Stick to the more status value.
Yes. Well, first, to be honest, I really don't understand why you're using buffers. If you have the roads, why don't you use the roads?
Because
No, but yeah, you can answer.
no, because we use the buffer just to measure the points that inside, or averaging the values that are on the lines, like the spatial analysis
The
as.
problem is that you're putting a centroid as far as I can
There's not a centroid. It's just where's the town hall. Actually, in
the origin point.
yeah, it's the town hall.
Town hall for every
Yeah,
for each municipality.
yeah,
Okay.
because
You're drawing a buffer.
we draw at the bottom. Usually, in most of them, there are 1,206. Probably is not going to be exactly for all of them, but most of the town hall are inside exactly the center, city center,
Why don't you use the road network?
the center of the road network. But
No,
it was an approximation because this is supposed to be a workshop to explain a methodology. The methodology can be really refined, but supposed not to be it's just a simplification for us in a way that not go that much in deep. Because yeah, we have the network, we can take into account a lot of things, but to keep it simple, that way for us was the right approximation.
But I would use the road network anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
The plan is to do that. Sorry, the plan is to do that.
Okay.
As I said, it was just a matter of oversimplifying it. I know it's oversimplification, but we just wanted to roughly count what's in there and what's not.
Okay.
If we know that in a place there is a lot of these elements that could have a relationship with the actual present or startup, fine. If we don't find any of this, okay, we'll forget about that later.
Also,
It's very rough, I know.
Yeah.
also measure.
Because it's easy to make to draw a street network, topological network, and just apply that.
Yeah, which is
As you've made with buffers, you can use real floating catchment areas for each point. And that can be, sometimes you don't have relationships in statistics, and the problem is that the variable is not very well calculated, or maybe you can happen the other way around. So you find correlations, but when you start applying different things, you don't have the correlation anymore. So for me, it's my way of being, but I prefer to have kind of robust data sets from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm not keeping going back and forward. But that's just a major. I mean, it's just a small detail that can have a bigger impact. Going back to what Vitor was saying, normally we use 1.2 meters per second walking speed. So that's around 4.5 kilometers per hour, more or less. That's an add-on. The problem is that we start looking at old people, you can walk 0.4, so 40 centimeters per minute. Yeah, that's actually the time that you have to when you set a crossing lines. That's the time you have to use. So you have to assume that people are crossing at 0.4 to allow all people to cross the speed. So there's a big debate about what's the walking speed. But anyway, if you're using buffers, I would say 2 kilometers is a lot, but yeah, it can be defended. I mean, I wouldn't find that a problem, especially because if you're doing straight lines, 2.5 kilometers, and in reality, people are just gonna walk around 1.5 kilometers or something. So that's assuming that he's gonna walk around 30 minutes to reach something. Okay? I have other doubts or maybe ideas to improve. I didn't really understand why you use 1, 2, 3, 4, and why didn't you normalize the variables? I understand that you need to have all the variables in the same scale.
Yeah,
but normally it's easier to just normalize the variables between 0 and 1 or 0 and 100 or whatever, and then you can add it, and you still have a continuous variable. Because the problem with your method is all the variables were continuous.
Yeah.
And then in the end, all became categorical.
Yeah. We read them.
You can't really assume that 2 is twice as much as 1, or so it's 2 plus 1. Yeah. They just become categorical variables. It's easier just to normalize them all between 0 and 1 or 0 and 100, and then you can do the next step.
The correlation with the
maybe for correlations and everything.
Okay.
Finally, I would say this: I'm a geographer, so I always look at. I love maps and I love representations of stuff. And I believe here you can have what we call the boundary problem. So beware of that. What's the boundary problem? So when you cross a boundary, then all the things become blue around the boundary just because they are the boundary. Because you're not considering
the other side. Yeah, it's outside the boundary.
So there's always, it's a common problem. But normally what we do is if we have our study area, we normally have to have
a buffer
area of data so that we don't have it might not be the boundary area.
In this case, we add the information in the other north and on the left side we have France and Switzerland, and we don't have this information. But also we have in the case of the presence of Milano that is there is not included. We didn't have the data, but it's still in the map presence. There's no boundary problem on that side. Actually, maybe it can show higher values. On the north and the left, we have mountains, and it's reasonable that it can be blue. For the network analysis, for sure, lack of.
That's the thing. I mean, if you have a mountain, and then you're going to draw a 30-kilometer buffer.
and then we invert the logic of the process. And this is very important to say. So in the first two steps, we understand what are the indicators that we have for occurrences of startups. So when we get to the end of this study, it means we know what in the places which are more successful with startups, have more startups, we find certain indicators. It means that if we want to change an area to improve their probability of creating startups, improving that scenario, we need to change the indicators that we measure there towards the indicators that show the best performance, the best suitability. Okay, and then we have to go through a few other steps which we haven't done yet. That's the reason why it isn't there, which is to identify in the characteristics of the existing area what are the changes that can create improvements in those indicators. Meaning, we have to discuss the parameters that can be modified, how they can be modified, what kind of urban interventions can happen, and then we can change and again we have several scenarios because we might have different kinds of changes in the area. And in the end, what we know is we want to reach this kind of indicator. And then we can check if it's possible, not possible, or if it needs a big effort, big investment, big change, or a small change, things like that. It means that we can study a small region and evaluate by studying different scenarios, not just the startups, but different kinds of scenarios. We can evaluate what can be the best changes to, or the best investments to have in a particular area. But it also shows that it's a lot of work. Okay? Anyway, this last part of the methodology needs to be
clarified
at
and
least written, okay? Because it clarifies the final goal of the research, which is not clear here. It seems that we stop in the middle, or something is missing there, and it is. But we know where we want to go.
Slide of future.
Yeah. So I would do that. Put actually two slides. One with the methodology, the part of the methodology that was done, and the other which is the rest of the methodology, so future work.
One question?
Yes.
You are thinking of some kind of post-study evaluation of success. How everyone will measure if this is successful? So if they try to apply it, there should be some strategy, say 1 year or 2 years.
Actually, we didn't talk about specifically about this, but actually one of our criticism about the actual urban planning is working in Italy, because there's no other years that every 6 year change a urban plan, but there's no actual evaluation about what happened before and next. This is the idea is to show that urban planning can change faster and helps stakeholders and municipalities to follow the direction of the growth. Obviously, this means that that has to be tracked, that the changes has to be tracked and has to be measured. Otherwise, you don't have the feedback. But one of the workshop itself. The born of this workshop is just to talk about the problem about the national urban plan in Italy. How it's so structured in a way that cannot follow the actual needs of the reality.
Finally, one of the primary goals of this project, of this workshop, is to actually trigger a discussion of this topic, because things have changed. The legislation actually allows for a more performance-based approach to planning, but still there, and the habits are not there. The habits are the ones that are more difficult to change, it looks like. So we have to find a way to show that we can put together the needs of the investor with the restrictions or the, let's say, the hierarchies that are ruling the planning, and by showing them that we can find a way to communicate between these two realms, and then afterwards to track what happened from one phase of the planning to the other. Yeah, we could maybe convince that this could be a methodology. And it would be very useful if some of you have some suggestions, I think, about the literature that is supporting, that we can use to support some of the decisions in terms of indicators. Because this is a very crucial point right now. When we say that, for the example of startups, or for the example of reshoring of Italian companies that went away, we have to find what is relevant to look at when we want to track this dynamic. Well, human capital can be useful when we talk about startups, cultural attractiveness, maybe some features of the environment, but mainly these are personal assumptions, personal hypotheses. It would be really good if we can really base this and ground this on some already existing.
Yeah, I was going to talk a bit about that, and getting back to the comment of Herbert Simon about the role of assumptions when we make simulation models. I think the most sensible part of all this is actually the first step, defining the indicators and defining the scenarios. So first, define what scenarios are we going to study, why these scenarios for a final goal. Okay. Final goal is probably to, let's say, identify what could be the best investment for a local place to do, municipality or something. Okay, so let's take the example of Portugal. You are studying the Óbidos and Sintra area. What would be the best investments for these two municipalities? Okay, so how to get to that to that information. And first thing is define what scenarios are we going to develop. Why this
scenarios can come only from national strategies.
Yes.
Local strategies, and a framework of general European strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the indicators are the crucial part.
Yeah. Then to define exactly which indicators best evaluate that particular kind of scenario, and that needs to be supported with some literature. And that is the trickiest part of all. It really needs to be, very well supported by already existing research, because otherwise, it's basically.
That's why I mentioned if anybody has some knowledge or some suggestions about this.
No.
Okay. Anyway, so this is an important point. Second point, regarding the role of the workshop. First of all, this workshop has taken too much time to plan. Okay, we're going almost
For a year.
a year and a half. Okay, working on this. It means producing a lot of work. The work is useful, and you can do a lot with that work already, and it was a learning process. But the main objective of the workshop was to try to collect more work, meaning some kind of research contract with those guys there that might be interested in this. So the way I want to present this at the workshop is basically to sell a methodology, okay? And we have to work on this, okay? How to sell this. To see if we can get some work for everybody. Anyway, another thing that you need to do very fast, and now getting back to the PhD, and which should be the main focus.